let's work. Get some muscle on your frame, let's work. No time.
Hi guys, it's Alex. Today we are talking about computer care and learning with Mr. Frost, with Adam Frost. Adam, thank you for joining us today. Could you tell us a little bit about your background and your computer company, Computer Care and Learning?
So I began my working life as a typewriter repairman. So I worked in a typewriter shop. I lived in a college town, and the man who ran the typewriter shop, Mr. Whitlock, had run it, and his father before him. He was a family business, and he repaired almost all the typewriters in town, and there were lots and lots and lots of them because it was a college town. So he student machines and professors' machines, including a couple famous people, came in, and I got to meet them when I fixed their typewriter. And then what happened was the typewriter business disappeared almost overnight. I was working for Mr. Whitlock when it happened. So every summer we would get hundreds of typewriters that we would store for the summer for students and teachers. And then when they'd come back in September, we would give them their typewriter all cleaned and oiled and adjusted. And so normally we'd get 300 of these. So one year it dropped from 300 to 5. The typewriter business had ended. And the reason why it had ended is that Apple had come to universities and basically given away Macintoshes to students. The terms are so good that nobody could say no. And so everyone stopped using typewriters, more or less. And so when I graduated, I majored in computer science. I was very interested in computers, even when I was a kid. My father and his brothers and sister ran a company that made telephone switching equipment. So I was always surrounded by gadgets, and my father, who I loved very much, was an engineer, and so that definitely influenced me. And then, so after it was really clear I was not going to continue in the typewriter business, and when I graduated, I hunted around and I went to work appropriately for a telephone company. So my first computer job was with a phone company in the city I lived in. And I helped them with the computer side of their company, which was growing. So that whole part of the phone business was gradually getting more and more computerized. I worked with one of the very first phone answering systems. For that large HMO was one of our customers, health maintenance organization, and they had 40 phones, and they were actually, it was controlled by an IBM PC. That was the answering system. And then I moved to Boston and went into business for myself. I really liked helping people with computers, but I did not like working for somebody who was ordering me around, which was the phone company I worked at was like that. And I waited tables at restaurants to help build my business because I didn't have any customers to start with, or only a few. And then gradually I did a lot of cold calling. Some of my best customers, who are still my customers to this day, I got by cold calling, by calling people on the phone and saying, I'm a computer person. Can I help you? And most people said no, but every once in a while somebody would say, send me something. And so some of those people have turned into permanent customers, lifelong. I've been in Boston for about 35 years, and I've been doing this that time. I've always wanted this to be a group practice. So it's always been my goal to have this be a team of people rather than just me. And I've actually found that very difficult. It turns out a lot of other people in my profession have the same problem. I've talked to other computer people who tried to have employees, and it did not work out. And part of the problem is that I tell this story. So suppose that you're a house painter, and you're doing pretty well. You're actually doing really well. You've got more business than you can handle. So you go on Craigslist, and you hire some person to come and paint with you. So the person comes and paints the wall the wrong color first day. So you get really angry, and you might fire them, or you might say, okay, but you repaint the wall and you move on. Okay, now switch. You're in the computer business. You're doing pretty well. In fact, your business is growing. You have more business than you can handle. So you go on Craigslist and you hire somebody who knows something about computers, and on the first day they erase the customer's data. Like they destroy the customer's data by accident. You close your business and move to another state. Like, it's a huge disaster. It's completely not something that can be. So I realized early on that in order to welcome people to my practice, it had to be a very long process. It had to be a long it took me a long time to learn this, and it takes everyone a long time to learn to do this well. So I developed a system where people would come and study with me as apprentices, basically, although Massachusetts does not allow apprenticeship systems in this way. So they're students. They're people who are coming studying with me for free, learning the business. And then what I try to do is as their skills grow, I say, oh, Jean, you know how to do this. You do this for this customer, and then we'll pay you half the billable hour. And so we do that. So we try to help people, and that way people grow at their own pace. They make some money, and hopefully make more and more money as their skills develop. But it then creates that long-term process where people can learn to be really good. We have a huge training problem in the computer business. We have a joke about it. So what's the difference between a used car salesman and a computer salesman? You guys want to weigh in?
I have no idea.
I think I recall you said the answer was the car salesman knows what he's selling.
The car salesman knows that he's lying.
Oh, knows that he's lying.
Yeah, the car salesman knows that he's lying. Welcome to the so the thing about the computer business, we have all these people, and I say this lovingly, but we have all these people who are in the computer business who often don't know what they're doing, but they think they do, which makes it much worse. It's okay if you don't know what you're doing. It's not okay if you don't know what you're doing, but you don't know what you're doing. And so it's been part of my goal to make sure that at least the people who study with me know what they're doing, and know what they're doing before we say, okay, you go and work for a customer. I've seen many computer companies that have sent out young people to do stuff, and it's not been a pretty sight. So the downside of it for students is they have to make a living some other way. Well, I did that too. I waited tables. It's part of growing that. But I also want to make sure it's available to everyone. There's no tuition, so it's not a cost problem in that sense. And we also have an extensive volunteer program with our partner nonprofit, Vital Tools Shared, where people can come and volunteer. And the volunteers often come and then study with me. So once I build up, you can't just come and study with me because you get access, you see my business and my customers. But once I get to know someone really well, I feel comfortable welcoming them into this world. And I think my students have told me that that's been a really good learning experience, that they've learned a lot from seeing me work, but also we have a whole project list for students to do. And so we encourage them to do these projects with each other. For example, the Backblaze online backup system requires some skill to install. And so we'll have one student be the computer guy and the other student be the customer, and the person gets practice in saying, here's what you need to do. They remote into that person's computer and say, here, and since that's a big part of our job is remoting into people's computers, this is excellent practice for both the practitioner, the person who's being the practitioner, and the person who's being the customer.
Adam, what's something special what sparks your interest in computer field?
Anger. So what got me into the computer field mostly, I mean, I like machines and I like fixing things, I like helping people, all those are very important. But it was also very angry at a world which was being controlled by these devices over which I had no understanding. So I was very motivated to say, I need to know about this. I feel pushed around. And that actually turned out to be a big part of my working life, which is that a big part of all of our jobs as we all work together is to help customers know how to take care of their own computers. We're a different company in that sense. Most computer companies say, get away from the computer, we'll fix it, then come back. And our attitude is, it's your computer, you're taking care of it, and we're supporting you. And that actually was what I wanted when I started. I wanted people not to say, we all know all the computers, which was the attitude often in the computer world. We know everything. What's the matter? You don't know about AUX? You don't know about AI? It's like, no. The attitude should be, come, let's study together, let's learn together, and let's not try to lord it over people, but let's be friends and get to know this. And so when I say it was anger at a bad attitude. And I tried to have a different attitude, which is, this is a joint operation. So our company is a learning company, our volunteer programs are learning programs, everyone's welcome with some good, sensible boundaries to take part. And that's made me much happier, and so I'm less angry now.
That's great. That's really great. Adam, in your experience, what are the most common misconceptions people have about taking care of their computers?
I think the biggest thing that we deal with is people feeling guilty. So most people, when things aren't working, a very natural response, especially because a lot of our customers are very skilled in their own world. They're not good with computers yet, but they're often very talented, people who have real skills over things. And they find themselves in this realm where they don't have those, and then things go wrong, and they say, I did it, I broke it, I did the wrong thing, I said the wrong command. And a big part of our job is to say, actually, I made the same mistake yesterday. Or actually, Microsoft designed this so stupidly that's why we made a mistake. And actually, one of the reasons why the student program is so popular with my customers, you have to realize, we're going in and helping people. And I turn to them and I say, this is Jean from Kigali, Rwanda. This is Ephraim from Queens, New York. This is Avisa from New Hampshire. They don't say, oh my God, why do you have these strangers on the phone? They say, oh, you mean they're learning too? And for them, it's really emotionally supportive to have students because they feel like, oh, we're all learning together. And so in general, customers really find this really helpful, but also the whole attitude of, we're all learning. I would say the other misconception that's related to this is that the computer helper, in this case me, is an expert. Here's the guy who knows everything, and I will defer, like bad medicine, this is bad doctoring, right? Oh, the doctor, he knows everything. This is not a good way to get healthcare. You have your own body, you know it actually better than the doctor does in many ways. The doctor has something special to offer. So similarly, we do know things that customers don't know sometimes. We do have certain experiences, certain skills that the customer doesn't have. But they know things too. And so one of the most important, I would say it's a misconception of computer repairmen, is that they think they know everything and they're imparting this wonderful knowledge on these poor, innocent, ignorant people. My attitude is we're all working together. We know something. We don't know other things. We're going to make mistakes. But as long as we really take it seriously, we're gonna be helpful.
Perfect. Adam, what are top 3 essential things that everyone can do to increase lifespan and performance of their computers?
The 2 things we emphasize, I'd say 3 things. Number 1 is we tell everyone if we get the backups right, and everything else wrong, we're okay. So our biggest emphasis in this company and in our volunteer program is backups. Is saying, is your stuff safe? And we have multi-layered backup systems that we recommend, even for a home customer who's not doing very much. People generally underestimate how awful it is to lose their photographs, for example. And so we have a whole system. You can read about it on our website, Computer Care and Learning. There's a do-it-yourself backup guide, security guide that I recommend that explains the layers of backup. Backup's all about reducing risk. And so multiple layers reduces risks very substantially. The second thing that we place a really strong emphasis on is passwords. So it turns out that most ordinary people now have hundreds of passwords. We're a tiny little company and we have hundreds of passwords. It's just a lot. And most people don't manage them well. So we have a whole system we recommend, it's also on our website, to help people manage their passwords. And actually the main reason is not to keep hackers out. It's to allow your friends and family in case of an emergency. So we have a program called Drop Dead Safely, where we teach people how to give their passwords to their executor, to their friend or their daughter or whoever, who's going to help them if they get sick or die. This turns out to be extremely valuable because when someone gets sick or they die, even if you're the legal executor, getting access to online stuff is a nightmare. But if you have a good solid password list that's up to date, your whole life is made much, much, much easier. So that's the second big emphasis. And the third emphasis is an echo of what I said before, which is the best thing you can do to take care of your computer is to learn. So computers are not something where buy the right firewall, get the right software, get the right antivirus software. the best way to enjoy your computer is to make it a learning experience, to look on the problems you're having as, oh, wow, I just learned to do this. So I had a problem with PayPal yesterday. PayPal has been providing our link that people pay us with. It's really important. And they have created, they upgraded the links. And now when you click on our link, even if a person's entering a credit card, it forces them to go to, if they have a PayPal account, it goes to their PayPal account. This is horrible. So I had to switch to a different provider, Square. And this was on a day when I had a lot of other things to do. And what really helped me emotionally was to say, well, I'm learning how Square works. I'm increasing my scope. I'm not letting PayPal push me around. It had this emotional strength to it. And by thinking of it as this is a learning process, it's good for me. And yes, it's time, but it's time well invested. It made me feel much better, and I got the job done. I felt a lot of satisfaction to have this new system, which still isn't right, but we'll keep at it.
We often hear about digital clutter. What does it mean and how to manage it?
I'm not sure what people mean by, I haven't used that phrase much myself, digital clutter, but my guess is that some of it is a question about organization. So the 100,000 emails you have in Google, So we've developed different ways of thinking about this. For example, we have customers who will say, oh my God, I've got to clean out my email. And we say, you're also going to dig a hole in the ocean, right? Like you can't, cleaning out email is really difficult to do these days. And one of the things I tell people is right now, storage is the least of your problems. There's lots of storage. Think about managing your email. Think about what email's coming in. Think about what you really want to do. For example, I always have nothing in my inbox. When things come in my inbox, I read whatever I need to do, but then I put everything in a done box so that I have an empty inbox and then more stuff comes in. So I know that everything in my inbox is important and needs attention. I find that really helpful in dealing with that clutter problem. But I think the much deeper problem of digital clutter is mental clutter. My own feeling about it is I'm very disturbed to see my friends and colleagues, not just in the computer business, but throughout my life, spending a lot of time online in what I would describe as a junk food activity. I just find that there's such a huge difference between deeply interacting with people and things you're reading and people's work, and what's being encouraged online, which is seeing something quickly, being pulled in all these different directions. I think from the very beginning, this has been a very bad development in the computer business, and I actively oppose it. And one of the ways I oppose it personally is I don't use any of the social media at all. I'm not on Facebook, I don't use LinkedIn, I don't use any of these media. It doesn't mean I don't respect their role. LinkedIn has a role in helping people learn about each other, but I don't spend time on it. And what I find is it frees my time up to be a better computer person. I'm actually with customers, helping them with their stuff. I'm with my students, I'm learning something on my own, and the time suckage is greatly limited. And I will say from a business standpoint, it hasn't hurt me at all. Like as far as I can tell, there's been no downside to not participating in this. And from a political standpoint, the very disturbing stuff that's going on politically, watching this all the time does not make it better. I think it makes it worse. So one thing I recommend for any kind of clutter is finding a place for it. So for example, this political thing, you could spend all your time going online reading about the disasters that are going on throughout the world. What I do is I set aside 2 hours a week on Sunday evenings to talk with people about this in a Zoom meeting. And the rest of the time I won't talk about it, I won't do anything about it. When people send me emails, I put it in a mailbox for that meeting. I find this really health inspiring because it means when I'm in that meeting, I'm really there and I'm really taking it seriously and getting valuable work done. The rest of the time, I'm doing other things that are worthwhile and I'm not getting pulled into this maelstrom or swamp, whirlpool.
Adam, what are the most common online threats that everyday computer users should be aware of?
Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Next question.
All right.
I will tell you, just to be serious. The only threat as far as I can see, in the sense that you mean. I understand.
Yeah.
But the only threat that is a really serious threat is phishing. So the main threat, and phishing is social. So what I emphasize to customers is it's not about firewalls. It's not about antivirus programs. The vast majority of our hundreds of customers use Microsoft antivirus exclusively. There's almost no threats from this anymore. People aren't writing viruses anymore. They just aren't happening. What people are doing is they're coming up with clever scams to get people to give them their credit card number. That's what it's all about. 99 from 44, 100% of all computer crime is doing something to convince people that you're somehow legitimate and they should give you their credit card. So a big banner on your screen saying, "We are Microsoft, you're in trouble, we're going to help you, call this number." Or someone calling you on the phone saying, "We're from the voice activation department, we'll help you with your problem." This is everywhere, and they're very, very clever, often extortative. Sometimes they'll claim that you've been watching child pornography and they have videos of it and they're going to call the police. Like, there's very intense, emotionally intense things that are thrown at people. So big part of our job is, I get calls like this every week, many calls like this. Is this a scam? And my answer almost always is yes, it's a scam. And it's taken some training for our customers to call me right away, not to first get into a thing with these people. And these people are very clever and very persistent. My dad, who's now passed away, but he was in a nursing home, they love preying on old people. So they called him, started talking about his computer was broken. He said, my father, being my father, said, "Wait a minute. My son Adam is the greatest computer engineer in the country. I'm going to get him on the phone." So he patches me in. And I say, "What's going on, gentlemen?" And they say, "Oh, we're from Microsoft." I say, "May I speak with your supervisor?" "Oh, certainly." So they get a fake supervisor to come out. They did a great job, like pretending. They knew the jig was up. There was a computer professional on the line. They just played it out. I was impressed at their fortitude. But this is everywhere, and so people need to we have to have a lot of awareness about it.
Tell us, please, about red flags which indicate malicious website and phishing attempts.
Well, the only malicious websites that have affected my customers are big banners that come up with a big alarm saying something's wrong with your computer, or a fake site that says we'll help you with your HP. There's this middle area where if you do a web search and you don't have an ad blocker on, you'll get these links to these companies that answer to the HP search, but are not HP. They're not Hewlett Packard. And when you call them, they say, "Oh, yes, we'll help you. We're HP authorized." Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. So I think the red flag, in my opinion, is if the website doesn't say HP.com, you should look at the name of the website. And with emails, almost all scammy emails have funny email addresses. But they're getting really good. We had, Ephraim can tell you a story about this. Ephraim got a great job offer with a legal document that was really well written with all the information, and it's like, and I was saying, can I get that job? It's paying more than I'm making. It was very exciting until we started pulling on the string. So I think the best advice I would give is pull on the string. Ask somebody knowledgeable, does this look right to you? If there's something about it that feels funny, that's a really good marker. Humans are very good at detecting fraud. The problem is that most people are good-natured and they assume, well, it seems weird, but they seem like good people. And so my job is, when they call me, no, they're not acting like good people. They're acting badly. Let's deal with this. I do tell the story, though, that one time I was at my coworker's house and I got one of these scammy emails. I get them all the time. So I said, I'm trained to deal with this. So I start reading the email. And I started looking at it. I said, these guys are good. Where did they get my license plate number? It was the city of Boston. They were towing my car. It was a legitimate email from the city of Boston. They were towing my car. So sometimes you'll get emails, and we can't get so suspicious that we don't trust anything. But checking carefully is what I recommend.
Thank you so much. Beyond strong password, which security measures should we implement?
I think strong, unique passwords is what I recommend. Most people use the same password with a small variation on most of their websites, and I think that is hazardous. Once one of those passwords is sussed out, it gives the person a chance maybe to break into another one. So I definitely recommend a password manager that makes random passwords. That is, I think, a really good thing and makes you safer. having a password management program is probably the safest thing you can do to protect yourself, and using reasonable caution in how you handle these different companies. But most of the stuff you don't have much control over. If you want to do online banking, you have to do it their way. And so I think being very careful about passwords. Some people like the two-factor authentication. I have mixed feelings about it, but it does make it harder for people to break in. I think most of the theft that happens in these systems are external anyway. There's nothing we can do about it. Like when there's a breach at Heartland or something, it's because someone broke into Heartland's computers. It had nothing to do with our security. So I think most of the things we do, we don't really have control over the security. We have to depend on these companies to do that. So I would recommend having a really good life so that if you get robbed, you won't have much money, but you have a really good life. That's my big recommendation for security.
Great, thank you. Physical cleaning often overlooked. How should we clean up our computers, and which tools should we use?
This computer that's sitting next to you, Alex, this is a workstation. It is probably 12 years old. I've opened it up because I had to put in a new hard drive. There's almost no dust in it. It doesn't need cleaning. I found that's the norm. The only time is if somebody has a cat or smokes a lot. There are issues there. And there are rare cases where a computer needs to be cleaned. In my experience, it's really not necessary. There's just not, the fans aren't that strong. It's not sucking that much air in. And so I think it's not part of our maintenance routine. These machines that you see in my office, they've been running for years and years and years. And if we open them up, there might be a little bit of dust, but probably not a whole lot.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your computer school, about your computer learning programs, about your students, who they are, and their career life path after graduation?
They're amazing people. They're amazing people. So it's an unusual student program, but it's one that I hope will be imitated. Because what I've found, I taught at a computer school, and actually this is how this got started. I taught at a very large computer school in Somerville, and I taught the DOS class, so basic operating system then, and the students, I love the students. They came after working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They come for 3 nights a week, 4 hours a night, to change careers. They were motivated, had excellent customer service skills, because a lot of them worked in retail. They were amazing people. I would take one of those folks over a university trained person almost any time because of their amazing social skills. But I realized that when they graduated this 2-year expensive program that they took out a bunch of loans to pay, they had no field experience. They had never worked with a customer once. They had all this classroom experience, maybe did a project here and there. So I thought this was ridiculous. So I started inviting students out to work with me. And so at the end of the first day, Mary, who's a very smart, middle-aged woman, she came up to me and she said, "No offense, Mr. Frost, but I learned more today than I did in a year of your DOS course." So I took that as a backhanded compliment, but I realized I needed to do more of this. So this was 30 years ago, and ever since then, I've always welcomed people into my practice. So after making sure that there has to be a very strong trust relationship to have people come into my own office and work with my customers or come in on Zoom. So these folks here, Ephraim Picker is a person who's trained in, you have a graduate degree now, Ephraim, right?
No, but I got Macaulay honors at Hunter, and then online curriculum UX design.
Yeah, so he's done some online training after his college education, but he's committed to the computer business. And his father and I went to college together 40 years ago. So that's how we met. A lot of people in my world I met socially, and then they became part of my world. Jean Mukisa is from Rwanda. Jean, are you there? I don't know if we've had connectivity issues as often with Rwanda. And he is part of this cohort of students from Rwanda who we met when we did a project in Rwanda. And he's a trained computer engineer who's learning this part of the trade. And Visanano is part of Perscolas, which is this amazing computer boot camp that trains people to be computer people. But they need additional hands-on training, so Visa has come to study with us to get that. So my hope in the 30 years that I've done this internship program, this training, the student program, people have gone on to work in industry. They work in the computer industry. Some have gone on to be the go-to person in their office. Some have just known more about computers and moved on and done other things in their life. My primary core audience are people who want to be full-time computer professionals. Mm-hmm. That's my goal for people who participate in this. And I hope they'll go out and compete with me. Mm-hmm. I hope they'll be out there running their own company and they'll say, no, don't have Adam do it. I'm going to do it. I'll do it better. That would be great. But also, we also help each other. My students and my colleagues, we've created a real network of computer professionals who look out for each other. And I send my students to study with other computer professionals. We also have a professional society, the Boston Network Users Group, where we all get together and talk about computer issues. This Tuesday, June 3rd, a woman is coming, Nancy Baker, a professor of occupational therapy, is coming to talk about using virtual reality to help people with chronic pain. And this, for me, is just so exciting. A lot of uses of computers, I think, is for the birds. But when you can use a computer to help someone with a health condition successfully, I love being part of that. But I think it's also wonderful that we computer people can do ongoing education in this way.
Awesome. For Adam, for people who overwhelmed by technologies, where you'd like to recommend to start their computer learning journey?
I think my big recommendation is find a person. Mm-hmm. So I remember we started to learn, I've been learning Kinyarwanda, which is the language of Rwanda, country of Rwanda. Mm-hmm. It's a very challenging language for Westerners because the vocabulary is completely foreign. You learn Spanish, you say hola. Well, that's kind of like hello, right? This is it's the Bantu languages. It's a completely different branch. Every word you have to learn, and you just have to learn it. So the process of learning something new, I learned this dictionaries. You go online. There's actually wonderful videos by. We met John through Achilles Songa, who has these great songs he sings. He plays in Kinyarwanda and then shows us what they mean. But I will learn more from spending 5 minutes with Jean than 20 minutes or an hour or 2 hours online. Mm-hmm. So I think finding people to learn from I find that what my customers really value, there's all kinds of online stuff, but it's the personal connection. In my experience in learning in general, I always learn much more when I'm with somebody and that can be, you can be on Zoom. I learn a lot that way. You can be on the telephone, but a personal connection, I think, is the best way of getting unoverwhelmed. And we certainly work really hard with our customers and our volunteers and all the people who participate in our clinics to say, let's all calm down a little bit. Yeah, this is really annoying. How are we going to work with it? And we find that most people really respond well to that.
Guys, do you have any questions for Mr. Frost?
I have one question. It's going to be a real little time for me to.
Go ahead, Avisa. Yeah, go ahead, Avisa. Go ahead.
How do you manage to keep all your stamina of positive energy amongst this crazy life of ups and downs?
Because you're here, Avisa.
Well, I was expecting a bit more long sentence, but thank you. Appreciate that.
And it's a metaphor too, in that.
I understand.
Yeah.
Presence is everything, so I'll keep that in mind, so I can demotivate it in this way.
I've definitely found that one thing that gives me a lot of energy is my relations with my colleagues, which include my students. That I actually talk to people. I have a phrase I like to use called the joy of obligation. Our culture has developed this idea that having to do something sucks. Like, oh, I've got to do this. I've got to clean the kitchen, or I've got to help this customer, or I've got to get through this work week. And I've developed this, and not only me, but other people who I really admire, I developed this attitude of no. And my favorite example of this is Jim Robio, who built the retaining wall in front of the house I used to own. that my former wife and I owned. It was a month and a half long process of him laying these stones, and he once let me pick up one of the stones. It was unbelievably heavy. I just couldn't believe it was amazing. And we talked together about our jobs, and Jim said, "Oh, it's an honor to be working on this wall," and it was. The way he worked on this wall, he asked us all these questions. He crafted the wall to work with the old wall. When our baby was born, we carried Morgan over this retaining wall that was still under construction into the house, and he got to witness that. And he looked at us. He said, "Precious cargo there." When you're really if you take your obligation seriously, and I actually have found that extending this to trouble is really helpful. So you probably see this as we work on computer problems together. The attitude that I try to have, and I try to encourage other people to have, isn't, "Oh, this sucks. Oh my God, this is getting in the way of us doing what we really should be doing." Flipping that around and saying, "No, this is what we really should be doing. This is exactly what we should be doing. We're struggling with this, and that's exactly this is our job." And I think that what I found by having that attitude is that what you're describing is the ups and downs. If you ride with the ups and downs and take them seriously and do your role in helping with them, it's extremely energy giving, and because you're doing this work, and the work itself is inspiring and interesting, including the stuff that's aggravating. So I think what I encourage people to do is to look at aggravation not as a negative emotion. Aggravation means somebody's done something, or you've done something, or something's gone wrong. That's a good thing to know. Pain is a good thing if it's not out of hand. Preventing it is also a good thing too, and finding ways to prevent bad things from happening. I'm totally in favor of. I'm not in favor of gratuitous, unnecessary pain. But there's real pain that you have to deal with. And I find that when dealing with that, and that includes the pain of relationships, people here have seen me struggle getting along with people and having all kinds of challenges. I've come to treasure that. Not because I want people to have trouble with each other, but when you have trouble with someone, if you look at it as a learning experience, the next time it happens, you'll do it better. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Awesome. So fascinating. Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Avisa. Ephraim, did you have a question?
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask something sort of similar to what Avisa asked about experience, but I guess more broadly, is of all of the work you do, I guess which aspect of it do you find, I guess, the most challenging?
Since I just define challenging as not being a bad thing, I would So I would say that the challenges that I've encountered, the big ones, are the challenge of reframing. I think is a really big challenge. And for example, looking on my problem with PayPal not as this obstacle to my life that if it just went away I'd be happy, but as, no, this is part of my job. That reframing challenge is there constantly, especially in a culture that I think has a lot of bad frames. A lot of the ways that culture is supposed to, when it's working well, supposed to teach you good things. Like you're in a culture that teaches you how to cook, or how to take a bath, or how to take care of a kid, or how to use a car well. That's a good culture. A bad acting culture is a culture that teaches you to drive sloppily, that teaches you to treat your kids bad, that teaches you to watch TV all the time, or to spend all your time on Facebook. Like, there are bad things going on in our culture, bad lessons. And so probably the most challenging thing in my working and personal life is to say, all right, people are trying to teach me to do this. Do I want to do this? Does this make sense? And that's very specific work that one has to do, that I encourage myself to do and other people to do, which is ask ourselves, what do we really want to do? What is good judgment in this situation? What will actually work? And often that is radically different than what everyone's telling you to do. So, and that is emotionally challenging. It is emotionally challenging to stand up and say, I don't agree with this. it's very difficult to have people being angry with you, and very difficult to have a group of people think that you're wrong. Even if you're right, it's still really difficult. It's emotionally difficult to have people be upset with you, and it's a very important skill. And so I would say that's one of the biggest challenges of crime.
Any other questions? All right. Where our audience can learn more about topics we've discussed and connect with you?
We would love them if they volunteered with us. And I have good news for people who are listening. I don't know where your podcast is seen or by whom, but
Social media.
social media, which can be a good thing. I don't want to completely trash social media. But where people can get involved is all over we have, as you see, volunteers from all over the world. So if people want to join our volunteer program, this computer that's right here was refurbished. This was refurbished by someone in Waltham, Mass. The ones on the floor there were refurbished by Jean in Kigali. We have a remote facility so people can volunteer for refurbish computers remotely from their homes, and also participate in Zoom meetings to discuss computers and get help with their computers and to learn how to help other people. So we have a volunteer clinic on Wednesday evenings where people can come and volunteer and give advice to other people under good supervision. And so I think the best way for people to learn about us is to come and get involved. We also have some non-computer programs that we'd love people to join. We have a psychology program, a psychology meeting. We have a physics soiree where people can study physics together, and a political group to deal with the current political situation that I mentioned. And so we really would love to have people join us. If people want more information, they can email me, Adam Frost at computercareandlearning.com. It's all spelled out. Frost is like the poet. We're not related. Those are the English Frosts. We're the Austrian Frosts, and we don't talk to those people. And you can also call me on my regular phone, which is 617-522-1049. I love phone calls. Very happy to hear from you.
The link on the Adam's website and contact info will be below the video in the description section. Adam, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
The word filled with adrenaline and